Would you call this Israeli terrorism, first of all? I mean,
it's really hard to have good faith conversations about Israel and settler violence. These are the questions I put to the Israeli government. This is Doron Spielman, the spokesperson for the Israeli Prime Minister's office, and we were talking about the situation in Kusra on the occupied West Bank. Right?
Nick Huckabee has called it that. Would you call it? Would you use that word?
Ambassador Huckabee is an incredible man, and I definitely, if we define terrorism, I don't think this stacks up to terrorism. I think it is a massive crime. Why? Terrorism is an attempt that is used to kill another person with vicious intent.
Well, it's an act of violence for political. It's a politically motivated act of violence. That would make these people terrorists because they're there to try to supplant people who are in their own homes. So that would suggest terrorism.
James, I appreciate the comparison. I'm glad you brought it up.
Israel is saying very publicly they condemn what's been going on in Kusra. They are trying to crack down on it. They're trying to arrest these settlers. They don't believe it's terrorism. But this is where things get tricky.
It's actually on a downward cycle. But this is wrong. However, what is terrorism?
Well, it just came out, the Israeli government just released its own figures to say there's a 60% increase in this kind of violence in the last year.
That's not true. There were 30.
This is a report I was talking about. It comes from the Israeli state broadcaster, and they spoke to security officials, a 63% increase in settler violence. But Israeli officials will say, even if that's the case, there is no symmetry. There is no comparison. Israelis on the West Bank are the victims of much more terror.
Saying there's no symmetry.
Absolutely no symmetry.
But this year, many Palestinians are also being killed. I mean, 18 children were killed by settlers only in August of this year.
What are you talking about, James? Where'd you come up with that statistic?
And this is what I mean about things getting difficult, because Israeli officials just flat out deny that Palestinians are dying on the West Bank.
That's not at all
the
true.
United Nations the United Nations Office for the Coordination of OCHA put out a briefing to the Security Council this year about what's been going on the West Bank.
About 18 children being killed in Judea and Samaria. It's ridiculous, James. It's not true. Send me the statistics. I'll overturn your statistics. It's the same thing like the Palestinian. Are you talking about the Hamas Health Ministry again?
No, I'm talking about the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs.
Where did they get their statistics from? What was their source?
I would imagine. I mean, they work with aid organizations and charities across the West Bank all the time. I mean, they work with Médecins Sans Frontières. They work with Standing Together. I mean, there are plenty of aid groups that work across the West Bank who monitor this sort of stuff happening.
And these are the same agencies that spurl statistics all over the screen from Gaza that repeat the exact same words from the Gaza Health Ministry. There have been no kids killed by
Wouldn't it be better to engage with international oversight rather than dismiss it?
James, you cannot start throwing out, check your sources.
For reference, these are just some of the stories that have come out just the last few months.
Talk about terror.
I'm interested to know why you don't think that Palestinians are being killed on the West Bank. I mean, because I'm talking to you online, I'm now in front of my computer, and there was a funeral in June of this year for a 7-month-old Palestinian baby that was shot dead by an Israeli soldier in his car in Hebron.
According to who?
Well, the Israeli military, a shot was fired when soldiers perceived a threat from the vehicle, and the child was killed.
Well, what was the threat from the vehicle?
I mean, it's very unclear to me.
What side are you looking at, James? What side are you looking at?
Well, you're going to tell me that the BBC is biased now, I'm sure, but I mean,
I don't know if the BBC's biased. They're only one of the most biased television stations in the entire world. But I can tell you, listen.
This is the thing, though. Like, I want to have this kind of really honest conversation with you. But I get so many messages from people who want to engage with these topics and hope that Israel can engage properly rather than constantly dismiss every time there's any criticism and say, well, what about them? What about them? Do you see what I'm saying?
No, you have to understand something, James. I started this conversation. I want to explain it very well. I explained this conversation that we're dealing with the biblical heartland of Israel. These are law-abiding citizens. And I said that there is a group of juvenile delinquents, and you can see them in the pictures.
So this speaks to one of the big issues of the entire conflict. It's about power and the perception of who has power, who is a minority, who is a majority. Israelis feel that they are the minority in a region where every single one of its neighbors is against them. And those Israelis living on the West Bank feel that they are the minority because there are Palestinians all around them that wish them harm. We've had a lot of Israeli officials the last few days talk about how those living on the West Bank, the Israelis there, are law-abiding citizens. They're abiding to Israeli law, but these settlements all across the West Bank are illegal under international law, built specifically in an effort to undermine the possibility that there will ever be a Palestinian state. That again makes Israelis feel that they are up against it. The whole world is against them. But Palestinians definitely feel like they're in the minority. They don't have the power. They don't have their own army. They live, as is the case in Area B, with the civil oversight of the Palestinian Authority, but with Israeli security forces in charge. And they feel they're second-class citizens more broadly. Arabs and Muslims across the Middle East feel that they are the minority because Israel is the one with the support of the West. The specific issue of the settler movement now in Israel is dominating Israeli politics.
Lawlessness in every society in the world.
Sure.
We're dealing with it as
But
much as
in this instance, is there a case to say, because the settler movement has been empowered, because it's at the heart of government, because these people have seen their leadership celebrating the execution of Palestinians with nooses on birthday cakes and all the other incendiary comments, which a lot of right-minded Israelis feel is wrong, is it fair? And I get so many messages from them, by the way, and have plenty of Israeli friends who outrage when they see people speaking in their name, saying some of the things that Ben Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich say. Is it that you went into coalition with these people? So is it any surprise that their followers in places like Kusra feel empowered to do what they're doing?
I want to explain something to you. We're not a banana republic. There are people in the government with various views. We are a country of law and order. What you call the settlement enterprise, which is the idea that Jews should be able to live in our biblical homeland, meaning everyone has a right
Well,
to
that's not. Their belief is that there shouldn't be a Palestinian state. It's more than that, isn't it? It's less that they get to live in a place the Bible says that Jews came from. It's more about, should there be a Palestinian state? And these people actively don't want there to be one. They say as much. I mean, it's not an interpretation. They stand up in public and say, we are actively committed to stopping there being a Palestinian state.
If you lived here, you could, and I understand, or if you look at the map and you see the distance between Israelis and cities which are being funded with terrorism by the Palestinian Authority, well, terrorists are being paid. You never answered my question. How much money transferred hands last year? Over the last 12 months, how much money did the Palestinian Authority, the purported head of the Palestinian state you're talking about, pay terrorists to kill Jews? Stipends to their families.
But again, whataboutism doesn't help the situation. Israel is a government that is allied with the United States. The vast majority of those who've made it their home have come from the United States. I'm asking you about this, the Ben Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich.
You're dodging. I'm trying to explain something to you.
I'm not dodging. I'm just asking you an honest question.
James, $200 million was paid by the Palestinian Authority, which claims to be poor and claims to be bankrupt.
Security minister.
Country of law. And
sure, but Itamar Ben Gvir is the national security minister.
So, he is, but we're not a banana republic. You don't have
the national security minister stands up and says, and celebrates when Palestinians die, or I mean, some of this stuff is just must be a right-thinking government like Israel must have to call this stuff out and say that might not be right.
James, I want to understand something here. When it comes to Jews, juvenile delinquents who are engaging in violence, you want to call them terrorists. When it comes to terrorists that are
terrorists.
Hold on. James,
I've interviewed plenty of terrorists. I know what terrorists look like.
Let me finish the sentence and then please respond. Sure. When it comes to juvenile delinquents and Jews who are unlawful and deserve to be arrested and Israel's condemning it, you call them settlers. When it comes to Arabs who are carrying out acts of terrorism that have killed Jews, all of a sudden they're Palestinians? I don't understand this. Meaning,
I didn't say that. That is denying. I mean, listen, I've interviewed ISIS fighters. I know what terrorism looks like.
Where?
I've in Syria, in Iraq, interviewed ISIS fighters.
You've been to Israel?
Oh, many times. I spent the first week after October 7th interviewing a lot of the victims of that attack. Of course I did.
I'm happy to hear it. I wasn't accusing you. I'm glad you have.
You've
spoken to too many people who haven't. So, I'm glad.
Of course, but I mean, I think it's unhelpful for all of us if we live in silos and we're not talking to the other person. What I find, and I have to tell you as a human being, I found quite shocking was to see, again, a senior member of the Israeli government having a noose on their cake. That kind of thing is kind of wild to me. And that is not to minimize what terrorists have done in all parts of the world. And Islamic fundamentalism is a problem. We know it is, but it's also surely an issue if you have someone like this who's got such a position of power in the Israeli government to celebrate death in this way. Does that not speak to these young boys in Kusra who see that and think, oh, violence is okay?
Again, these boys are under a lot of different influences. I don't know the degree to which our ministers in our government that have maybe done things that I certainly don't have birthday cakes with that on my own.
The uncomfortable truth that a lot of Israelis are dealing with now, there is a very important election coming up, is that perhaps this settler movement, this violent settler movement specifically, is not just a few bad apples. It's not just a fringe movement which they need to do something about in a country which is otherwise normal. Is this the natural product of a two-tier system which does not fundamentally respect the rights of the Palestinian people?